Okay, so right now I would like to inform the participants that if you want you want to get the certificate, please please register on the registration link. Okay, so we're gonna drop the registration links for all the participants. Okay, so all the participants have to attend all the sessions, from the 21st to the 23rd December. So, okay, our team will check your attendance for offering your certificates. Okay, so now I have suggestions for participants. Please, I can see that your name is not a real name, so please rename like your into your real name. Is not just not nickname. Okay. So um now next presenter. So we are going to welcome Professor Beverly J. Irby, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, and Regents Professor Marilyn um, Ken Barim. I'm sorry, cannot if I pronounce incorrectly. Okay, so Endowed Chair for Student Success, Director, Education Leadership Research Center, College of Education and Human Development, Texas, A&M University Editor, Mentoring and Tutoring, Advancing Women in Leadership, Texas, USA. So our guest speaker will present the topic on why is mentoring important, that me in mentoring um, the your two. Okay, so our guest speaker will do live presentation. Okay, so the guest speaker will have 45 minutes, including question and answers. Okay, so right now, please join me in welcoming Professor Beverly J. Irby for next presentation together. Thank you. Please welcome Professor.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this really unique event. I want to thank Dr. Chan Roth for inviting me, and also Dr. Kramer for inviting me to be a part, and all of the support personnel. How wonderful you have been in developing this particular conference. So I just wanted to tell you that first. And also, I wanted to say that this particular conference is unique, and it's also related to the wonderful new master's degree that is there at the university with Dr. Roth. And his vision is really unique around the world, because there are, I don't even know of another master's degree that is in mentoring education. And it is so critical. As I share with you, I hope that you will find out how critical mentoring is and why it is important for us. I'm going to share my screen now. And so you should be able to see my screen. I don't know if you're seeing other things on my screen, but there are some little things that are coming up on my screen. Maybe you're not seeing that. Are you?
No, we just have the main slide. It's perfect.
Wonderful. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. So this is about why is mentoring important? And it's about the me in mentoring and the you too. So we're going to talk about that today. If I can get my screen to go. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you is something about mentoring and about mentors. It's the epistemological basis for mentoring. And it really begins with the story of Homer's Odyssey. And if you will recall about Homer, the writings of mentoring offer, I'm the editor for Mentoring and Tutoring, the Mentoring and Tutoring Partnership and Learning Journal. It's a Rutledge, Taylor, and Francis journal. And often I will get papers that are submitted for review for that particular journal. And the authors often represent mentoring from the perspective of Homer's Odyssey. So that term mentor came from about the 8th century BC when Homer wrote his legend of the Trojan War. And the story, as was told, was that indicated that when he went to war, Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, left his infant son Telemachus and his wife Penelope under the care of his teacher, mentor. He called him mentor. And he was responsible for not only educating his son, but for also helping develop his character and for providing him with the knowledge with which he could build his wisdom and his decisions. Now you can hear some things in there that are related to mentoring. So therefore, really the word mentoring came from mentor's name, and hence almost every reference in any paper that you might read about mentoring is from that particular literature, and it uses that time point or that reference point for mentor and mentoring. Now that's really interesting because the Odyssey was written around 750 BC, as you can see on this screen. So I want to share with you one other thing here. You can see some hieroglyphics at the bottom, and that actually is from mentor. That is the word MENTOR from hieroglyphics, the top one. And the bottom one is actually the word vizier. And we're going to talk about that word in just a minute. But we believe that it is Homer's writings, actually, that are based in many centuries of relationships to ancient civilizations, and particularly that of the Egyptian civilization. And, you know, on one side of the Mediterranean, you have Greece, and on the other side, you have Egypt. And so you would have some, I think it's actually about, about 1,000 miles if you were going by land around to get around from Greece all the way around to Egypt. So that would take a little while to get there. It would take us probably in a vehicle, maybe about 2.5 days, something like that for driving. But at any rate, that is the distance. Now, by the way, across the waters, across the Mediterranean, it's closer that way. Some people say as the bird flies straight across, so it's closer. But there is a relationship between Greece and also Egypt and this Egyptian civilization, and we're going to talk about this. So I first want you to look at this historical concept for the support of our hypothesis that there was some inkling of information that Homer had prior to writing the Odyssey. So if you'll notice, the actual first Egyptian hieroglyphics and writing appeared in about 2900 BC. And you can go all the way down through there. You can see the Great Pyramid of Giza. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and about 2500 BC. And then you come on down and you can see what's happening in the timeline. And I don't know if you can see at the very, very bottom, between about 750 and 700, there's a question about that. It's about the 8th century BC is what we mentioned. Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. And so I know that many of you have read that, and so you are familiar with it. And we're going to talk a little more about this connection. So then there are these viziers in Egypt during this early time period. And we still have some of the writings of those viziers. And those were our very first mentors who wrote information down. And we still have their wonderful writings. And there you can see some of the writing from Hegemony, and that is from about 2589 BC. So you can see how far back that is from 750 or 700 BC. So look, Hegemony was the teacher or the mentor of Khufu, and he was the builder of that great pyramid of Giza. And there you see the great pyramid of Giza, and there I am in front of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's so wonderful to have been able to see that and to really feel what was surrounding this vizier and the writing and the work of these mentors in Egypt, and to really walk on the land where it happened. So I was very fortunate a few years ago to get to visit there. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about Hegemony. And remember, we have earlier writings, but we don't have anything preserved really. But we have these pieces of papyrus that those are preserved where they have been found. And there's the Parisi papyrus, and you'll see some of the work from that in just a moment from that piece as well. But we have three viziers we're going to talk a little bit about today. And the first one is this instruction from the teachings of Hegemony. And as I said, he was the minister or the vizier there to the father of Khufu, and then to Khufu himself. He was his teacher or his mentor, and he was the builder of that great pyramid. And that book survived in the Parisi papyrus. You also have the individual who was another vizier, Ptahhotep, and that was around 2500 BC. And Ptahhotep's mentoring was really, his teachings were instructing Akhtakhotep, and he was also a vizier. He taught him even, he taught other mentors to be mentors. And it was really interesting to talk with the Egyptian historian, Dr. Tahawi, and to hear from him about what these particular writings stated and how they were translated. But we'll look a little bit more into Ptahhotep in just a moment. And the more recent, if you can consider that recent, 1250 BC, you can see the Book of Ani. Now, many people have this picture perhaps in their homes, or they have seen it in books and on television, but this is a picture from the Book of Ani. And the Ani was also a vizier, and Ani actually, there's some, perhaps Hachi, Queen Hachi, might have been in some sort of lineage or discussion about some of these particular viziers, prior viziers, recommendations and mentoring tips that they left, and then actually sent that on down to Ani. So this particular person, as I said, was also, this piece of papyrus was found in the papyrus of Bulaq, and it dates, as I said, around 1250 BC, and it was found in Thebes and around, which is currently Luxor, around that particular area. So we're going to move on because I want to share with you why it's important. So this particular me in mentoring and the you, or really all of us, really began what we ever wanted to know about mentoring. We really learned a long time ago. It's sort of like what we ever wanted to know in life, we learned in kindergarten. Well, what we ever really wanted to know about mentoring, we really learned this, or we had this many, many years ago, almost 5,000 years ago, we had these pieces of advice. And as learned from Hegemony, remember he was the first vizier or mentor that I talked about in his writings. And we think that though Khufu was the pyramid builder, Hegemony was the career builder as a mentor. So he built that career. He helped build Khufu's career and helped to build the pyramids, basically. And so let's take a look at some of Khufu's writings. So first of all, in these, in the Prissy Papyrus and the papyrus that they had found with Hegemony's writings, these are things that he talked about. He talked about to be humble. He worked with his mentee to be humble and to give more than you receive. And don't overspeak. Don't speak and talk too much. And he said that timing is everything, and that all is done and all has a proper time to be able to implement things. Also, he said, don't be gluttonous, and to just be overly ambitious, I guess is what that would be. And also to accept kindness freely and to keep a good reputation. So those were some of the main things that we still have, and there are others, but we still have those particular teachings and helpful hints that came from Hegemony, that ancient mentor to the builder of the pyramid of Giza. The pieces in the green are those notes or the pieces we find in the Prissy Papyrus from Ptahhotep. And particularly, Ptahhotep talked about building leadership, building character, and helping the individual build his or her identity. And these viziers also helped the wives of the pharaohs as well as the pharaohs themselves and their children. So these are the things that Ptahhotep mentioned. To maintain active listening, and how important is it to have active listening and to really listen to the other individual. And as a mentor, that is very, very critical. We have to know what our mentee is thinking and feeling in order to help them to develop that leadership and the character and the identity. And to be persuasive as you articulate your position. So think about what is the art of persuasion? So as a mentor, you want to teach that to your mentees. And another thing is do not repeat slander. Can you imagine that all of these things were being taught 5,000 years ago? To be respectful and not repeat slanderous comments, and to care for those who are less fortunate than we are, and to follow justice, and also to think about these viziers helped in the ruling pharaohs. They helped them in the government as well. So they worked on socially responsible issues during that time. And also to nourish your soul. I thought that was an interesting commentary in this Prissy Papyrus from Ptahhotep, to nourish your soul. And that means, take time for yourself and really reflect and be reflective so that you can improve and to do the right thing. And this is actually translated in this way. So I went on and used it like it's translated from the ancient civilization, to not be a hothead. I thought that was really interesting translation, but meaning, just not to jump and be loud and responsive to someone or to be argumentative with them. And then to stay diligent and do more than is required of you, to take initiative. Those were some commentaries from Ptahhotep. And the last vizier, I have a couple of items from that particular writing of Ani, the Book of Ani. And that is to speak calmly to an angry person, similar to not being a hothead, and to respect the privacy of an individual. So those are some of the key points. And, if we as mentors, and the me in mentoring and the you perhaps as the mentee, if we took all of these into consideration and we put those into our mentoring program, I think that we would have a pretty good mentoring program. And it's based on thousands and thousands of years ago of mentoring information and things that we should be thinking about during that time. So I also wanted to say, I believe that Dr. Abdelrahman, who is also an author, you can see her name. She is from Egypt originally, and she is now at Texas A&M. And she is on the conference today, and she's with us. So I wanted to acknowledge her. And also Dr. Laura Alessio is here with me on this particular conference call as well. So we really appreciate that. And that paper that I'm talking about here is in, I don't think you can actually see this book. Maybe you can a little bit. Now, that is in the New Wiley International Handbook of Mentoring. And both Dr. Abdelrahman and I are editors on this particular handbook. So this is the latest handbook out on mentoring, and that epistemological beginnings of mentoring is in there, in that particular handbook. So I want us to think about mentor or the epistemological discovery. And we believe that this is a discovery because no one had written about this epistemological beginning in terms of written information on mentoring. And we believe that many people do use Homer. Homer's mentor is a fictional character, but this work is based on the writings from real people. And also Homer did not write his work, his Odyssey, and the poem until 450 years later than the latest vizier's writing that we have, those of the Book of Ani. So mentoring was in written form in most of the ancient civilizations long before Homer wrote that word, mentor. We'll give Homer that, the use of the term mentor. And actually, it wasn't until around the 1700s that we actually started using the term mentor as a mentor quote, particularly in the English-speaking world. And then the practice of mentoring was first captured in writing, the written word that we still have as it first appeared now back in that ancient civilization of Egypt. and by the actual mentors or visitors or teachers or wise individuals, and not as it was told in that mythical tale. So we think that's a pretty big discovery. And the oldest books, these are actually the oldest books that we still have in existence. And just think about it. Can you imagine that these oldest books that we still have in existence in writing were written for the purpose of mentoring? Isn't that amazing? I find that to be exhilarating and really exciting related to mentoring. Just amazing. I'm going to say that one more time. The oldest books that we still have that are in existence were written for the purpose of mentoring. So I want to ask, so why is it thought that mentoring is important for me and for you? Well, during that time and during the really, now we have this foundation of mentoring. During that time, mentoring was deemed critical to the development of a society, of a civilization, of a growing civilization. So if mentoring was deemed so important that the pharaohs would actually select someone to come and be the mentor to him and to his family and to his children, can you, and to the government, to help the government, can you imagine how important that was, and how important that was to an ancient civilization that was really phenomenal and that gave us so much in this world? And now how important is mentoring for us, because it is deemed critical to us in our development of our society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Irby, so for the insightful presentation about why is mentoring is important. Okay, so right now it's time for Q&As. Now we are having some questions from participants. So the first questions from General Japers. Okay, I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce your name correctly. So so this question is, what insights on mentoring success based on your experience, the me in mentoring, you can share to us? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the me in mentoring could mean actually the mentor, or it could be the me as the mentee. Okay, so it's really important. What is mentoring success? It's many of the things that I mentioned, even from that ancient civilization. The list that I shared, I can even go back to that, but I wanted to say that to be a successful mentor, you do need to be a good listener, and you need to be kind, and you need to maintain that active listening. It's so critical to really listen and not be thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, or oh, I've got that next interview in my class, or something like that. You really need to be listening and being respectful of the other individual, whether you actually are the mentor or you are the mentee. And so that is really an important piece of being a successful mentor or mentee. You also need to show up. And that's important as well. That's a part of respect. So sometimes I might have a mentoring session with someone, and perhaps that individual doesn't show up, or maybe I wouldn't show up. That wouldn't be very respectful either of our time. And so it's really important to be respectful of each other in a mentoring relationship. And also to think about social justice issues or social responsibility. We have a mentoring program in a school, and the professors and the graduate students and some undergraduate students go over to this school. And many of these students that we actually mentor are from first generation, and they are economically challenged as well. And so you'll notice that I did use the term economically challenged and not economically disadvantaged. And those are things that we need to keep in mind. Even our speech, what we say in a mentoring session, and how we treat others in a mentoring session is very critical to success.
Okay, thank you so much for an enlightened answer for the question. So right now we have another questions from the Philippines from Mr. Alvin and Dakao. Okay, so the question is why there is classification of colors of statements for advising mentors of mentees. And next one, is there an educators that support that colors? Blue stands for career builder, green for leadership, and red for mentees identity. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. The blue is actually I wanted just you to see what Hegemony, the first vizier, those are the oldest pieces of information that we have from 2559 BC. So 5,000 years or so, almost, but that is from the first mentor's words that were captured in writing where he wrote that. And so those were in hieroglyphics, but those have been translated by our Egyptologists. And that is in discussion with us as well. And that is those are Hegemony's words. Those are the oldest. The blue would equate to the oldest advice that mentors give. The green, which is Ptahhotep. Ptahhotep was more verbal in his writing. I guess you would say verbal in the writing, but more prolific, I guess you would say, in the writing. And we have a lot of words and a lot of pieces. You know, the papyrus was broken apart and torn, and so they had to put it back together. And so these were found from the Parisi papyrus, and those are the most words that we have from that mentor, Ptahhotep. There are others as well, but these were the ones that I thought were the most significant. And then the last one we don't have quite as much, but it was the Book of Ani, and it is the most recent. So it's sort of the oldest in blue, the one that comes about 2000 BC, about 500 or so years later. And then the last one's about 1250 BC, which again is about 750 years or so, or 450 years, excuse me, or 500 years before Homer even wrote the Odyssey. And we think that, and remember I said that there was a lot of, it's not very far from Greece to Egypt, and so, and from Crete, the island either, there. So one of the Greek Isles. And so I think that there was a lot of remember Alexander was from there, from Greece, and so on, with Alexandria there being founded in Egypt. But at any rate, I think that there were a lot of stories that came back, and these were stories that now that Homer had and could write about and create this concept of mentor, or leaving the family with a person who was going to see after or mentor or support that family while he was gone. Odysseus was gone in the story. Thank you. Let's see. I don't think I can hear you, Dr. Singh.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Professor, that you take your time for answering the questions of the participants. So now we have the questions from Cambodia, Sok Liep, and yeah, she wants to get the book that you are speaking, and how can she get it? So yeah,
So
how can she, yeah,
I
okay.
think that this is a great reference book for your library to get. So you might ask your librarian to get this book for your library, and that would be a good way you could get it. Otherwise, you can get it through Wiley Blackwell books. I think these kinds of handbooks may be a little expensive, but I think that for sure your libraries can help you to get this. And please let me know if your library cannot get it. Perhaps we can help you with that with Wiley Blackwell as well. There's one other book that we've worked on. Oh, I don't think you can see that one either. But anyway, it is the coaching. Let me just tell you what it is. It's the Coaching and Mentoring, a Handbook for Leadership Success. So this is a coaching and mentoring book for leaders, for mentoring leaders. And the last book that I want to mention to you, for those of you who are in your master's degree, there's a book on writing that I've written on writing a successful thesis or dissertation. And so I consider this my way to mentor you through my writing, just like these viziers did with the children of the pharaohs. But anyway, I'd like to share that with you too. So.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. So right now we have another question from Cambodia. So yeah, from Otkontai. Okay. So yeah, she has two questions. So as you have presented, mentoring can build relationships, characters, and identity in their mentees. Is it possible for Cambodian teachers to build relationships and characters with mentoring? As okay, okay. So yeah, she has. I'm sorry, she has one question for you. Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We work with teachers all the time. We work with virtual mentoring and coaching. And we actually have free virtual professional development, and I can get the information also for you. You can come in and do those virtual professional developments. They're about an hour long for each one. They're sort of just-in-time training. And I'll be happy to get that for you. And in that, you can use that to actually mentor others in specific topics that teachers, that you can help build the capacity of teachers and help mentor those teachers. And that builds your own leadership, but it also you can help others to build their leadership as you mentor them through those virtual professional developments. And it helps to build your own character and it also helps you to build your character as a leader, but a teacher leader. And we believe that all teachers are leaders. But we really feel like that as a teacher, you can actually help to build the identity of good teachers in the classrooms. So yes, absolutely. You as a teacher can mentor and do
Right.
peer mentoring
Sorry, right.
of other teachers.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much, Professor. So right now we have another question. So from Cambodia, from Miss Potivi. Okay. So how to shape our mentor's mind to be a good mentor? Do you have any tips for shaping our mind to be a good mentor? Thank you.
Yes. So, for one thing, as I mentioned earlier, that if you will think about that one in that item in green about midway down, it says nourish your soul. And that's a part also of reflection. So, reflection is key to thinking about your own practice as a mentor. It's key to think about what the situation that you find yourself in is, and in terms of mentoring. And it is key to analyzing that and appraising that situation. You need to really critically think about the situation. And reflection is really not very good unless you do a last step, and that is to transform. And if you think about what you're doing as a mentor, reflect on it. It's a metacognitive strategy, and you think about that. And if you want to think about your next goal, what are your goals? And you'll have your goals already in the mentoring situation. And then what is the next goal? And how does that mentoring session or work help you to move to your next goal? That's what transform is about. It's not about what I did in this one and I stay stuck in that area. No, I want to get to the next level. So I have to transform my practice and my behavior and my thought.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer. So I appreciate that. I think in Texas right now is your bedtime. Okay, yeah, I'm so sorry that you gave up your bedtime for joining our conference. So this is your sacrifice for mentors and around the world, or especially in Cambodia. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm so sorry for the participant that all the question cannot be answered this time because of time limitation. So you can drop your question privately to Professor Irby Beverly. Okay. Thank you so much for joining our conference today. Thank you.